What's up, y'all? Happy Friday. I have the last 7 books that I've read, and I have them in order right now from top to bottom, bottom being books that were just okay. So I'm gonna go through them and kind of tell you slightly why they're in the position that they're in. Alright? Let's go. Out of the last books that I've read, the one that's gonna be on the bottom is How to Love a Jamaican. Why? If I'm reading a book and all of a sudden I'm flipping through it and looking at the back again and wondering why I picked up this book, if I'm constantly checking how much longer I have to go, if I fall asleep every time I start reading it, if I make any excuse not to finish it, if I have to read the same pages over and over because I just can't grasp what I just read, if it feels more like a task, then it's probably a bottom book for me. How to Love a Jamaican was a bottom book for me. It's crazy because it was short stories, but they was not short enough for me. I found myself thinking like, is this a short story still? Out of about 11 of the stories, I enjoyed 3 of them. And out of those 3, I could probably remember 2 of them, 1 of them. I need to close this book and be like, ah. But no. Didn't happen. How to Love a Jamaican. Bottom of my stack, I have Jaya and Rasa. I'm not sure if that's how you say their names, but that's how I'm gonna pronounce it. But yeah, I thought this was gonna be like a Romeo and Juliet love story about a trans guy who finds love. What really bothered me about this, about them calling this like a love story, is I feel that because Rasa was going through such a hard time, she would have loved anybody who treated her different. I don't feel that was love. I felt that she was just using this person she felt was safe, that wouldn't harm her, wouldn't hurt her. Therefore, she felt like she loved this person. But in the same with Jaya, I think Jaya was just a lonely kid, lonely guy, and he never had anyone show him any attention. So the first person that showed him some attention, he was like, oh, I love this person. No, not a love story. I do like the writing style, how it went back and forth from Jaya to Rasa, and that actually saved this book for me. I found Jaya's story completely boring. Rasa's story was interesting, as sad as it was. Felt like maybe Rasa should have had her own book. This should have been all about her, and maybe brought Jaya in at the end. I wish they would have got more into her stories so that they would have had the chance to actually end the story. They did not end this book, by the way. They kind of just left it out in the open where you had to guess what happened. So that's Jaya and Rasa. Next one is Mr. Smith Goes to Prison. I really enjoyed how he brought up a lot of problems that are in the prison system, a lot of the statistics. Unfortunately, it was things that we already know. However, I feel like he went there specifically for that experience and to write this book. He wanted to go there and be an ally. He wanted to go and save the day. He wanted to teach them classes, get them reading books. I think he was just trying to bring people together for his book. Okay, I think this is the bottom line. He was there to make this book. Yeah. But it was an interesting story and a lot of good facts. So that was Mr. Smith Goes to Prison. Every once in a while, I like to read a book that's just a sandwich with no bread. You know what I mean? Just straight to the meat. Bam, 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 bam. Zane, busybodies, quick thoughty. Is that the word? Is that a word? Quick, ratchet, urban, sex, erotic stories. I do think she needs some new creative ways to explain stuff though, because she's starting to like repeat herself and call things weird names. You know what I mean? Well, anyways, I did enjoy that. No. Mr. and Mrs. Doctor had a lot of my top book qualities. If I'm carrying this book around, it's probably a top book for me. If I'm wondering all day what's gonna happen and I can't wait to get back to that book, if I can't read it and I'm looking up an audiobook for it, if I'm laughing and crying and getting all pissed off at a character, they're no longer a character, they're someone in my life. If I'm reading a book and everything's like, what? if it instantly gets my attention, if I feel like I want to quote the whole book, if it teaches me something in some way, if it gives me something to take with me after I'm done reading the book, that's a top book. Once I read the first sentence, everything Job of Bagania knew about sex, he learned from American pornography. I knew I was going to be into the book. Job in this book pissed me off so much that I loved it. Hated his views on African Americans, and it made me, it pissed me off, but it was very interesting from the beginning to the end for me. And it wasn't predictable, which is what I really like. The ending, again, wasn't the best, but it was no Jaya and Rasa ending. Long Walk to Freedom, Nelson Mandela, top book quality, where I feel like this person is in my life. I sat there and I listened to Uncle Nelson tell me how it used to be and how it's gonna be and what my responsibility is now. I loved it so much that right after I read this, I started going and looking up all types of videos so I can see his speeches and all the interviews. So that is a top quality book if it makes me want to dig deeper into the story. I wanted to know all the connections. I wanted to know the people he mentioned. I wanted to read about them. And when he was talking about the ANC, I'm like, I need to know more about the ANC. So I have to buy a book about the ANC. You know what I mean? I like books like that. I think it's fun to hear stories and facts that I've already known, but to get new information, no. I love this. After I left Uncle Nelson's house, I went over to Uncle Frederick's. Boom. I have this one up one higher than Nelson simply because it's a US experience that I feel that is a little bit more relatable to. The way that he wrote this was so simple and easy to understand and easy to read. And I feel like I'm just right there just listening to him tell me these sad stories. Last, which is actually the top, James Baldwin, Fire Next Time. Me and Uncle James, we've been hanging out. The reason I picked this as my top is because I'm a PK and it's the most relatable to me. I was born and raised in a Pentecostal church. My dad was a pastor. Before that, my godfather was the pastor, and then my granddad was the pastor. So all my life, all I knew was church, 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 church. And some of the things he brought up, I'm like, I thought about that too. And I like books that challenge the way I think. I love how he respectfully disagreed with people. His encounter with Elijah Muhammad, he respectfully declined his offer. His whole vibe is very admirable, and it's a lesson I will take with me. This is the book that probably has the most quotes that I've ever written down. Write them down and read them, and just to help me with my everyday life. But anyways, I know that was long. That was my list. These are the last books that I've read. I have them from top to bottom. Bottom being the one that I didn't enjoy as much, top being the one that I enjoyed the most. Yeah, boom. All right, y'all.